Good evening, everyone, and I hope good evening to our Year 9 students as well. I have to admit, I still find it a bit disconcerting to be speaking into the screen with little idea of whether I'm speaking to an audience of 10 or 50, but I'm going to assume that our Year 9 community is there, and I hope that our Year 9s have tuned in as well, because actually I want to speak to them directly first. So Year 9s, I want you to know that your teachers, the tutor team, my senior management team, we're all genuinely very excited to be getting you back on campus, because the senior school isn't actually the senior school without you. I also want to take my hat off to you and congratulate you for not just enduring the marathon remote learning stint, but for getting stuck in and doing your best for its duration. I know that the last few weeks, probably since you heard the news that you were coming back, may have been particularly hard. I know that for me, when the end is in sight, that short period till the end often feels like the longest. But the end really is in sight now. And as Adam Gibson, our new head of prep, has said, he said that 2021 is, of course, the start of a new year. But for you, our Year 9s, it can actually be likened to the start of a new academic year. And that leads me into tonight's webinar. My main aim is to provide you all with reassurance that we're ready and raring to go for the return of the Year 9s, and to give you the heads up around key points of information and logistics. I want our Year 9s to feel excited and perhaps even a little trepidation, because after all, it will be the first day of senior school proper. So I hope that tonight will provide you with sufficient information in readiness for next term. I think it's also important to recall our aims as a school that have been integral to us as we return to on-site learning. Our mantra has been safety, social, education. And whilst it's difficult to disassociate one from the other, having safely settled the Year 10 to 13s back into the routine of on-site learning, we've transitioned the focus onto the academic this term. However, of course, with the return of the whole school from January, safety has to be very much at the forefront of our thinking, but also for our Year 9s, the social strand is of critical importance, because we know that it's happy, optimistic, open-minded young people that both thrive in the classroom and outside. And having been away from school for so long, we know that it's really important that students feel settled and at ease as soon as possible. We have new students who, of course, joined Cranley in September, who have yet to step foot on campus, and across the year group, students who haven't seen each other for months, actually. So for this reason, I've asked Rory Gallagher, our senior housemaster, to speak tonight, and later he will talk briefly about our pastoral care and direction for the term. I think the first point of key information I need to give is the one that might cause most initial unrest. ADEC stipulate that we can have bubbles of no more than 15 students, and bubbles can't mix. This has huge ramifications for how we timetable bubble classes and how, of course, we staff them. In Year 9, we currently have 8 tutor groups, but we can't retain 8 tutor groups when we have the whole school back on campus. So in January, we will therefore be moving students into a bubble tutor group, and there will be 6 bubble tutor groups in total. And so this may mean, for some students, a change of tutor. And of course, for all students, it will be a change to the group of students who they see and learn with on a daily basis in their classroom. However, whilst I don't want to downplay the impact that this will have on some of our students, I do want to say this. First, we have done our best to keep as many students as we can with their original tutor. And second, a lot of work and time has been spent on ensuring that students are in a group that is most right for them. Rory Gallagher, the housemasters team, and especially our Year 9 lead tutor, Lucy Reed, they've all spent a lot of time doing their best to ensure that students are placed with at least some students with whom they mix and learn well with. I'm not going to do any big reveal right here as to who is in which group with which tutor. This information will come out next Sunday. But I do want to say this to our Year 9s. Please don't worry and please don't panic if when you find out who is in your group, you feel that it's not quite the perfect match. In 99% of cases, what seems a little bit uncomfortable at first becomes very natural and becomes right within days. Certainly the years 10, 11, 12, 13s, they've all had to be placed in bubble groups as well when they've come back, and that's meant splitting their original tutor group, but honestly, they're faring just fine. As I said, we will provide information regarding bubble tutor groupings on Sunday next week. So moving on, you may be aware that the year 10 to 13 students have had some optional remote learning days. Year 9s, they're not going to have any remote learning days, and they will be in school Sunday through to Thursday. The reason for the difference is that the year 9s learn within their bubble group. They don't have optional subjects like the older year groups, and by that I mean that they all take the same subjects as each other, give or take the languages. So this means that they'll mostly have face-to-face teaching throughout the day, with teachers coming to their classroom to take the lesson. For the small number of students who have chosen to remain as remote learners, they will be placed in one of those 6 bubble tutor groups. They'll dial into their bubble tutor group for registration and for lessons, and they will feel as much part of that group as those who are on site. For subjects like DT and art, we're almost certain that students will have workshop time and be able to do practical work within the workshop. And it's the same for science, where students will have lab time on a rota. I'm particularly excited because whilst we're not allowed to offer PE, our PE team have been planning sessions that will take place outside and include some movement and, importantly, non-screen time. So it's looking likely that we can provide this twice a week. The final point of information is around the shape of the day, the timings, the pick-up and drop-off arrangements and so forth. And just before I show the next slide, it's probably worth me saying again that all logistical information, everything that I'm speaking about now, we're going to send out information letters next Sunday, so no need to take notes. So the year 9s will be dropped off in the morning, either between 7:30 to 7:40 or 7:40 to 7:50, depending on their bubble group. I think those of you who already are dropping younger or older children off will know that whilst those timings may sound quite precise, Tim McConnell-Wood and his team's militaristic planning is paid off, and so long as students are arriving within their allocated time, the flow of traffic is actually really very good. And this is particularly important for 2 reasons. First, everyone is calm on arrival to the campus. If everyone is calm on arrival to the campus, I should say, the start of the day for the students is also calm, and this obviously bodes well for the day ahead. And second, it also means that there's no bunching of students as they arrive into the school building, which is obviously really important for their safety. So I do take this opportunity just to ask you to stick to the correct time, please. 1 or 2 minutes outside the allocated time may seem inconsequential, but actually it can put an awful lot out of kilter. Pickup for the year 9s is between 3:35 and 3:45, or 3:45 and 3:55. Thursday is going to be a shorter day for the students, and they will be allowed to leave campus at 1 p.m. or 1:10. The shorter day on Thursday is for a number of reasons. First, we have a real dilemma, and actually, to be honest, a bit of a conflict of interest in terms of balancing academic and enrichment needs with the well-being and the desire to reduce screen time. We've certainly always been a school that places huge emphasis on development outside the classroom, whether that be through sport, performing arts, collaborative projects, anything and everything really. But the current situation means that whilst we're striving to find alternatives, we can't get students into the swimming pool or onto the tennis court or playing football or even singing together, although that is obviously being achieved virtually by the Les Mis musical. We know that many of you are actually enabling your children to be outside and doing physical activity and taking them away from the screen, and actually that's something we really want to support through the Thursday afternoons. It also enables us to use that time for academic clinics for some of the exam students in years 11 and 13. And finally, we as a teaching staff also need time to meet with one another, to discuss students, to review their progress, and to develop our methods to continue to provide the very best teaching that we can under these new circumstances. But by having a spot and achieved all school back on campus, our time is actually pretty squeezed. So Thursday afternoons will allow us the time to meet and to develop and to continue to offer what we hope is a very high standard of provision. And so I think I'm going to leave it there. Before I hand over to Rory, this is now a good point at which to remind you that we will have a Q&A session after Rory has spoken. Jo Lee is going to lead that. So do put any questions in the chat and we will do our best to answer them. Rory, thank you. It's over to you.
Good evening, everyone. And can I start by saying a huge well done to our Year 9 students who I think have completed the longest remote learning marathon perhaps anywhere in the world since the lockdown started. I think it is unprecedented. It's put its own strains on them. They've responded incredibly well. And also I want to say thank you to the parents because whilst we're usually in loco parentis, you've been acting in loco magistris. I think that's probably correct in Latin. You've been doing a lot of work at home, and I know how hard that's been for the students and for you. We've been listening to your feedback. We've been listening to feedback from the students, from their tutors, and acting on that as much as we can in the immediate term, but also especially for their return in the new year. We are incredibly excited to have them back. They are the missing piece of the puzzle. We're really missing them in school, and having the year 10 to 13 back now, we're feeling that lack of the year 9s, and I just can't wait to see them. I'm so sorry I haven't managed to meet some of you, especially for the new parents and new students. It's difficult. Normally we'd be able to really support you, meet you, and look after students. So just want to reassure you that the procedures are in place for January, and we're seeing it very much as Ms. Dale said, as the start of almost a new school year, a fresh start. And we'll be starting by looking very much at the pastoral side. So ensuring that your children are settled, ensuring that they're happy and safe, obviously. And that's the first thing, as Ms. Dale said as well, is to make sure that the structures are in place. And as we found with the year 10s and above, the students really settled very well into those routines. And once they're settled, we can then start to build in the collaboration and social elements. So I'm also here just to tell you briefly about our pastoral program. So obviously our tutors are very ready to meet their new groups. They're looking forward to meeting those they don't know. We've tried to keep students in house groups and in friendship groups as much as possible, as Ms. Dale said. And we'll be putting together some activities, especially during that first week, even on the first day, to make sure that we break the ice and get the group to know each other. For new students, we have a buddy system where we will very much look after them on the staff side, but also on the student side, where one of our Cranley students who's been here a few years will look after them. So I do want to reassure you that, as we've said, we've put a lot of work into the logistics of the return in terms of safety, but also an incredible amount into the social aspect and the pastoral aspect, so that we will be looking after your students for their safety, but also in terms of what's been lacking for them, I think, over the last few months is the social aspect. And we do realise that is the most important thing we need to do with year 9s. As I said, we've been listening to feedback from the students and tutors and looking at their workload over the last few weeks and going into the winter holidays. We've been trying to cut that back, trying to not give them any work over the winter break, to let them fully rest and relax. And when we come back in, to make those lessons as engaging as possible, as interactive as possible as well. So that's really our goal. So to finish up, I think I want to say that we are really here for you. We're here for your children, to look after them and to make sure that they get back that experience of school that is fun, that is social, first of all, and then build back in the education as well. So that's my message to you. I'm so looking forward to having them back, like I said. And also I can't wait to meet some of you, be it online or in person, as you drop off and pick up your children. Thank you very much. And I'm going to bring on Miss Jo Lee, who is our Director of Performing Arts. And I believe before the question and answer, she has a little plug for us. So over to you, Jo.
Good evening and a huge welcome to the Year 9s and to all the Year 9 families. We are, as everybody else has said, delighted to be able to welcome you back onto campus. Usually at this time of year, we would be staging a school show. This time last year, we had enjoyed 2 productions by this point in the academic calendar. And obviously, with these unprecedented circumstances, we find ourselves in a slightly different situation this year. However, we have worked very, very hard in order to be able to create a performing arts offering, and are very proud to be streaming the live version of Les Miserables. And we have already had auditions from year 9 to 13 pupils for the main parts. However, we would very, very much like more of the year 9 community to be involved in the chorus. So if you would like to be part of the chorus, please do have a look at the newsletter. If you would like to be in the band, please do have a look at the newsletter. And we would love for the whole community to be a part of this. And we really feel that this is a wonderful opportunity for year 9s to engage in, even from a remote point of view, as we know that singing currently isn't allowed in school. So on to the questions. Our initial question, I'm going to hand straight to Mrs. Dale. And this is a question which is about school pickup times and whether the prep school will alter their times and collecting and dropping off of pupils. Over to you, Mrs. Dale.
Many thanks, Jo. So yes, this first question is particularly about the prep school times of drop-off and pick-up. There's going to be a few changes, but probably quite minor. All that information will be delivered to all parents next Sunday, including the year 9 information I'm going to send out. In order to help parents with drop-off where there are siblings, we've previously said, and we'll carry on with this, that siblings can be dropped off 30 minutes before their allocated time, if that will help families. And particularly with the year 9s, they can go straight to their bubble base room and they can settle themselves in and get on with work until their tutor group starts to arrive and their tutor session kicks off. So that'll be up to about 30 minutes before their siblings are being dropped off. And it will be the same on the pickup as well. With collection, it's a little bit more complicated, I suppose. One of our main objectives is to ensure that students' learning isn't interrupted. So we try and avoid any early pickups in the sense of lessons being disrupted and that students' learning being disrupted. And really what I'd say is if you feel like you've got a complex situation in terms of pickups and drop-offs, then please do get in touch straight away with your child's housemaster, and they will try to make a plan with you and support you and make sure that all the logistics work for both your children and for us on campus as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Dale. If anybody else has got any questions, please do pop them into the comments section. I was just wondering, Mr. Gallagher, if you could give us a little bit of information about new pupils who have never possibly been to the Cranley campus before. What provision are we putting in place for them?
Yes, of course. First of all, like we mentioned before, there will be a buddy system in place, and we will try and get those buddies to be in touch before the start of term just to say hi. So there is a point of contact. Obviously, we can't arrange to visit the whole campus because of the bubble system. However, we are planning on that very first morning that within the bubble groups, we will do a little tour of the areas, the classrooms, the outside areas we can use to make sure that all students, as well as new students, are familiar with their environment and where they need to go for lessons, to toilets, to break areas, etc. The tutors, obviously, as well, will be in contact with you if they haven't been already, to give you all the information you need. And as I say, that we will be very much on the lookout for those new students on the first morning. I'm sure all of us will be outside, raring to go and really eager to see you and hopefully get a chance to say hi to parents as well. I hope that answers the question there.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. And I'm following up straight away with another question for you, which is connected with the expectations on uniform for the year 9 pupils.
So yes, at the moment, the ADEC regulations have said that it's no ties and jackets. So it is the Cranley school uniform with the blue shirt, but no tie or jacket at the moment. That's the uniform for the start of term for year 9s, please.
Excellent. I'd now like to welcome Mr. McNaught. into the chat and would invite him to talk about any setting or any issues connected with the academic side.
Thanks, Ms. Lee. The timetable for Year 9 is very similar to what you've been experiencing in a remote format in terms of being taught in tutor groups or mixed sets. There is one unique change to that in that we are teaching our advanced mathematics sets as they have been taught. So if you are following an advanced math course, you will still be taught with your colleagues or your pupils that are following that same course. Apart from that, as Ms. Dale indicated, you'll be following your normal timetable with your tutor group, and you'll have the opportunity to go to DT, art, and science lessons on a rotation.
Thank you. Oh, and there's a question here, and I'll send it straight back to you, Mr. McNaught. Can we still opt for online learning? So I think that must mean remote learning to stay at home.
Yes, that's still an option for you. If you would like to learn remotely, then you just need to get in contact with Ms. Dale and Mr. Gallagher to indicate that so that we're aware and we can make those changes for you.
Excellent. And are there any CCAs planned for the future? I'm going to send that one to Mr. Gallagher. Are there any CCAs that we're considering planning at this time?
Yeah, thank you. Good question. It's obviously something we're looking at. The first objective is as it was with the return of the Year 10 and above, is to get all the students safely back onto campus. As I'm sure you'll realise, with the constraints and regulations, it is quite an operation, even down to those pick up and drop off times to the minute, as Miss Dale said. So our primary objective is to get all students back in safe, to get the social side going and to get the education running and get them engaged back into their face-to-face lessons. We are working on a program of CCAs, but obviously we have the constraints of not being able to do sporting activities at the moment. And also what we want to avoid is just doing more online activities. So we have some ideas, and we'll be trying to bring those in as soon as possible, but not right at the start, because obviously the objective is just to get everyone back in safely and back into class.
And there's a question here about getting the pupils tested, which I think must mean COVID tested. So can I hand that to Mr. Gallagher, please?
Yes, we're waiting for the dates and the more information from ADEC, but all children will need to be tested before they return to school, and we will give you information on that as soon as we get that. So yes, do please be aware that you will need to do a COVID test for the children before they return to school.
Excellent. Oh, and a contribution from Mr. Wilson in the chat there, saying that we have been talking to ADEC this afternoon about CCAs. So I think that must be a good sign. I don't think Mr. Wilson would mention that unless there was some exciting news around the corner, which hopefully will allow us to try to return a little bit more normally than we would usually. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, you are obviously very, very welcome to get in touch with any member of the team at any time, even if not in this particular webinar. I will now hand back to Mrs. Dale.
Many thanks, Jo, and I think I'll just take this opportunity just to thank everyone who's on screen, but also everyone who's behind the scenes on the academic and the pastoral team who are working hard to make sure that we have a very smooth start to January and can welcome everyone safely onto site in term 2. So that really just leaves me just to thank you all for coming tonight, for your ongoing support, of course. I do hope you have found this short webinar useful. Please do continue to keep in touch and to communicate with your child's tutor and your housemaster if you have any queries or concerns. But just to confirm that a letter of information covering everything that we've spoken about tonight, including information about the bubble tutor groups and the tutors, all that will be published on Sunday, and there will be information for families across the year groups, not just the Year 9s. All of that will be out on Sunday, and hopefully that will cover all the information you need to feel ready for January. So really that just leaves me to say to wish you a pleasant evening, rest of the evening, and of course a very pleasant and enjoyable National Day holidays as they come up after tomorrow. Have a very good evening, and that will leave us to sign off. Thank you.